Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in this video I'll be taking a look at Nice Try by Ronald Hilt and Max Haupt. Nice Try games from Germany. This is a party game, of course. You might have already guessed by the title, which has a bunch of cards, a couple of notepads where you can take your scores, and it has several challenges that you can take and then decide who was the best at it, and that person scores points. So I will go through the rules briefly and then I'll share my thoughts on the game. But before I start, I'd like to point you towards my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. If you'd like to support what I do, you can do so for as little as just $1 a month, and that will get you your name in the credits of all of my videos as a supporter. You'll get early access to my videos on YouTube, as well as access to some Patreon exclusive posts. So let's get started with Nice Try. So Nice Try by Ronald Hilt and Max Haupt is a challenge party game for ages 12 and up. Plays with 4 to 8 players. Comes in a small compact box, and on the back it actually has a QR code so you can take a look at what's in the box instead of having a picture of it on the back of the box. So let's open it up and see what's inside. So first of all, we have the rules booklet. Spoiler alert. So I'd skip a little bit if you want to not see. Don't look at the cards before playing if you don't want to get spoilered. Also, the deck comes pre-shuffled and is ready for play. Alright, that's interesting. So alright, they do not accept any liability for bruises, broken fingernails, or missing body parts. Alrighty then. So you have this rules leaflet, which is just an A4 kind of letter-sized leaflet, double-sided. And then you have these cards. So it's ready to play, so I won't spoil it right now. I'll just try it out and then tell you what I think about it. And it has a little notepad where you can keep track of people's names, bids, and points. And that's basically it. So it's a bidding game, party game. Let's explain the rules. So to play Nice Try, you simply take all the cards here, you give that deck a shuffle, and you give every player one of these sheets and a pencil or a pen to note their scores on. And then one of the players gets the Game Master card. So that player reads the next challenge. You just pick a card from the stack, you read that aloud, and the Game Master also gets to interpret the rules. So if some challenge isn't clear, the Game Master has the last word in how to interpret those rules. They also participate themselves, and you pass this card after each challenge in clockwise order, so everybody gets to be a Game Master at some point. At the back of the card you have the scoring system, which I will explain in a bit. There's all kinds of different cards here. So we have these physical cards, the body cards, the red ones. You've got the green ones, the dexterity cards, and the blue ones are the mind cards, so smarts. And then there's the yellow ones, which come in 3 different categories. Well, let's start with these first. So for an example, in this case, you have disco, so they all have their own title, and it tells you what to do. So this says stretch the fingers of one hand and form a fist and stretch them again. So do this repetitively. And you count the number of fists you make, and the question is, how many repetitions can you do in 30 seconds? So you use a stopwatch to, that's what you need. You can use an app on your phone. So sometimes you need items in this game. And you do that for 30 seconds. Now, the idea is to place a bid on how well you do. Now, in this case, this is something I've wondered about. If everybody would do this, then everybody would bid on themselves and say how many times they can do this, and everybody at the same time starts doing this, but there's no way to check how many times someone did that, because you're only counting your own, not the others. So in this case, I would say that the game master is actually the one performing the task, and all the other players are bidding on how well or how badly the game master can perform this task. And again, it is a little bit of a thing about interpretation here. So, you know, the game master may interpret. They could also just pick someone who hasn't had a turn yet to perform that task, and then all the others place their bets. However you wish to do it, you place a bet. So you might say, well, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can do this in a second. So if I'm doing this 30 seconds, I can do this 600 times. But can this person who is actually performing the task do it 600 times? They might be a bit slower, they might be faster. I don't know. So you place your bid. Everybody does that. Everybody writes down a certain number. And then after the task is performed, you check the scoring. So in this case, the best bid, the middle bid, and the worst bid, which can also be interpreted as the highest bid and the lowest bid here. So let's say this person performed 500 of these squeezes, right? 500 fists in the 30 seconds. Somebody bid 600, somebody bid 500, somebody bid 490, somebody bid 300, and somebody bid 100. Let's just go with that for an example. And the best bid, in this case the highest bid, was the, what was it again? Well, more than the person actually did, right? If they did like 550 times and 600 is too much, then they would lose 4 points. If they actually made it, they were the closest, they get plus 4 points. The worst bid, the lowest one, the furthest one away, skips around and loses a point. And everybody else in between, if the person actually made it, so if they went beyond the number that they bid, then they made it, even though they might have put in a low value, as long as it's not the lowest value, you get 2 points. If you, however, went with a bid that was higher than the number that the challenger could do, you lose 2 points. So again, a little bit of interpretation there. But that's basically how that works. Then you've got dexterity. So in this case it says, throw a pencil from one flat hand to the other. If the pencil touches something other than your hands, or your hands are no longer flat, your attempt ends. How many transfers can you make in 30 seconds? You're basically just tennising a pencil around between two outstretched hands. And again, how many? It's kind of same thing. Different kind of question, for example, is here. 10 coins are face up. So you need coins. It tells you here what you need. 10 coins, 2 spoons, and a stopwatch. Use the handles of 2 spoons to turn over all coins. It's called sushi, chopsticks, right? You clock your own time. How long will it take you? The lowest bid is the best. So again, the different ways of interpreting these challenges. Then you have the mind games. All players are to write down terms that belong to one of the following categories. We have several categories, and the game master may choose which. How many terms can you think of in 2 minutes? You're writing stuff down. You need pen and paper and a stopwatch. So yeah, the different kind of categories. And then you have these. Now, these are pretty interesting. So you have last man standing, one shot, and high score. So an example of last man standing, it's basically a challenge where literally the last man standing wins. So all participants form a circle. After the starting signal, no blinking is allowed. If you blink, you're kicked out and a new round begins. Very simple. You don't need anything. Last man standing gets points. And I'll show you how many in a bit. There's one shots. You, in this case, place a credit card or similar on the edge of a table, which in such a way that one part hangs over, like they do with coasters, right? Coasters on a table. Flip the card in the air like this with your fingers and catch it with the same hand before it touches the table or floor. You only get one shot. Are you in or out? I'll explain that in a bit as well. So you can choose to participate or not. And then you have the high score. In this case, you are facing with your back 2 steps away from a bucket. Throw a soft object, such as a packet of tissues, through your legs into the bucket. You have 5 tries. Do you get the high score? So again, you need several objects for that. And if you don't have them, you can just, take the next card, do a different challenge. So in last man standing, the scoring is very simple. players get eliminated. Everybody who gets eliminated loses a point, so you write down a -1 for that challenge, and the last man standing gets 3 points. For the one shot, every participant only has one go at it. If you succeed, you get 2 points. If you fail, you lose 2 points. And then finally, the high score. For every successful attempt, you always get 5 tries. You get 1 point, so you can get up to 5 points, but for each failed attempt, you get -3. Now for each of these yellow challenges, you can decide if you want to participate or not, but of course if you do not participate, you get 0 points, you just write down a 0. And then finally, the scoring sheet also has 3 jokers, the easy, safe, and nice try. These 2 are for yourself. If you're challenged, and you say, well, that's an easy challenge, I can definitely make that, you can tick this box and you will double your score if you actually make it. If you do not make it, you get double the minus points. The safe you can use after the challenge. This is before. You have to tick that box before you do the challenge, and this one is after the challenge. So if you do fail at a challenge and you're standing to lose a lot of points, you can tick the safe box and you won't lose any points. So that saves you from losing points. And the nice try one is not for yourself, but for somebody else. You can do that after a challenge when somebody has either done it well or maybe not so good. You say, oh, nice try. But then that player will get a +1 point regardless. So you basically give away a point, but you also get a point yourself because it says +1 if used. So it's basically a compliment to somebody else, maybe a snarky compliment, but both players, yourself and the person you give it to, gets a +1. And you note that here in the nice tries, you just put a dash, like a Roman numeral, and you can get multiple points from other players if they decide to give you the nice try. But these 2, since they are used for yourself, if you not use them, you get a point at the end if they're unchecked. So then at the end of 8 rounds, you've got 8 boxes here that you can fill in. Then you add up all the plus and the minus points. You add up any nice tries or any +1s if you haven't used any of these jokers. That adds up to your total. And of course, the person with the most points is the winner of nice try. And those are the rules for nice try. Let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Nice Try by Nice Try Games. Let's start with the components. So you get a deck of cards, and that's mostly it. They are of a good quality. These are pretty nice and thick cards, and they are printed very clearly. The text on them is big enough to be easy to read. And the color codes, of course, indicate what kind of challenge you get. You have the blue mind challenges, the red body challenges, the green dexterity challenges, and the yellow ones are the challenges where everybody partakes, and you have 3 different ones. You've got the one shot, the last man standing, and the high score. So that is all very clearly printed and well done. You get your notepad with the scoring sheets, which is great. And it seems there's plenty of them, although I do think if you want to play this a whole lot, you should at least laminate about 8 or maybe 10 of them, because you will run out at some time, and then you can use dry erase markers to keep score and just keep on playing. The box is big enough that you can laminate them and put them in vertically, and maybe you should just divide the deck in 2 and put those on top, and that will all fit easily into the box. The box itself is nice and compact. It's not bigger than it needs to be, so you can bring it everywhere very easily. Usually I also talk about the artwork and the theme, but of course this game doesn't have any of that, so we'll skip that and go straight to gameplay, because that is where it is at. And the gameplay for this is quite fun. It's, of course, a party game that might not be for everyone, but I think you should give this a try even if you don't really like party games, because it is very accessible. It has plenty of different challenges. Like I said, there's the mind, the body, and the dexterity, and the group challenges. So there's something for everyone. You can also choose to skip a challenge, just draw the next card if it's something you just really can't do for whatever reason. And that makes it very like I said, accessible and for all ages. You can play this with kids, you can play this with adults, you can play this with the whole family. Grandma and grandpa can play along if they want to. So that makes it very fun. It has very diverse and varied kinds of challenges in the game. So that is a lot of fun. The challenges themselves are quite fun. There's a few of them in there that are just hilarious. If you want to try them out, the dexterity ones I find particularly funny. And the fun doesn't just come from doing the challenges, but also from the betting, because you have to bet, you know, place a bet on who does how well, you know, the person doing the challenge, except of course for the group challenges. You have to decide whether they can do this really well or maybe not so well, and you have to put up a bid, and that will get you points. And part of the fun comes from that, because you have to kind of guess how well your friends or your family or the people you're playing with will do these tasks. And if you're familiar with these people, you know, if it's not just at some random game night where you're playing with whoever, but you're playing this with friends most of the time or with family, you can have a good idea of how well someone will do, and that itself might cause some hilarity. You could, you know, just secretly write down your score, but you can make that a kind of a little mini game as well by just announcing, well, I don't think Steven over there is gonna do too well on this mind game, and he's gonna be like, what, you think I'm an idiot or something? or maybe Neil over there is not too physically inclined, so, you know, how many push-ups are you gonna be able to do in half a minute? 2, you know, and there's a lot of hilarity coming from that as well. So in that regard, I think the gameplay is quite fun. The replayability is okay. I mean, there's a whole deck of cards here. It's about, I don't know, 54 cards. And so there's plenty of challenges, but since you're playing 8 rounds, you will have at least 8 cards per game, so you'll be through all of them pretty fast if you play this a lot, of course. And the game does invite to play a couple of rounds, to play it again and again, because it is simply a lot of fun. So I kind of hope that there are going to be more of these, but I'll talk about that in a bit. So the replayability is just limited to the 1 deck of cards, but you'll have plenty of fun with that. Finally, there's the language dependency. This is, of course, very much language dependent, because all the challenges are literally written on the cards and they're all different. So you have to read what's on the card. There's a German version and an English version, and that's it. But so there's that. You have to keep that in mind. But if you have just one person who can translate the cards for the rest of the group, you'll be fine. But of course, that is something to keep in mind. So now, what about possible expansions? So they actually have on the box and on the rules sheet here a Facebook, an Instagram, and a Twitter page. They also have a website where they link those pages. And I went there, but it seems all of those pages are either gone or completely empty. So that leads me to believe that the company is actually defunct, or at least they've stopped whatever they were doing, because this game was originally kickstarted. The Kickstarter was successful and they sent out the games, but it seems they were working on a team version of the game as well, which never got made, which is sad. There was an update, but it's for backers only, so I couldn't read it. I don't know what's going on. So if the designers, so Max and Ronald, if you are seeing this video, please leave a comment below what the status is, what you're doing, because I would love to see new standalone versions of Nice Try, you know, like Nice Try 2, 3, 4, and instead of an orange box, have a blue box, a red box, you know, a green box. You can make as many as you want with just a new deck of cards, with new challenges, a new notepad for when yours runs out. I mean, that would be awesome, because this is really a very fun party game. So if you still want to pick up this game, you can find it on their website, but you can find it on Amazon. I will put a link in the description below, so you can go there, order the game, and still have fun with this. It's just hoping that the designers will be back with more editions of the game. All right, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please also subscribe if you haven't already. That really helps the channel. And if you'd like to support me financially, check out the Patreon page as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.